All right, well, we got our coldest day of the year here. It was 19 degrees Fahrenheit last night. So this is a good opportunity to check out and see if a voltage stabilizer for the TCI will benefit the bobber. Because what I got going on with this one is it's got a real small battery. I got it down in my little side saddlebag. And so it's not a big battery like the stock bike. My stock bike over there will start any time of the year. It doesn't really matter how cold. But what happens on the bobber is that with that little battery, I don't get enough voltage. And so when it goes to crank over, the starter takes the voltage down too low, and then the TCI won't ignite to make the spark. And so what I want to do is see about one of these voltage stabilizers for the TCI and just put it to the test and see what it does. Because right now, most likely, when I go to start it, it's not going to start. So right now you can see, charged it up last night, and so it's sitting on about almost 13 volts. So the battery is pretty strong, but it's a small battery, and it doesn't put out a lot of current. And so right down here you can see this is a spark checker that I got in line on the back cylinder. And so when it sparks, that ought to flash, and we ought to be able to see it pick up on the screen. So let's fire it up and see what it does. So I got the choke on just a little bit. My temp gauge up here right now is reading almost 0 degrees C. So it's pretty cold even out here right now after warming up. So we'll crank it and see what it does. As soon as I turn the switch on, you can see that dropped. Now it's just dropping because this battery is old and it's small. So when I crank it, let's see what it does. You can see that voltage dropped way down below about 10. So here in a minute I'll put the camera on the stock bike, same temperature, same conditions, and that will do to crank right up. One difference on the stock bike is that it still has the original 2-pole starter, and so it doesn't pull as much juice. But this bobber has got a 4-pole on it, so it's really cranking down. So you can see it's dropped below 12. My little battery is just not able to do much anymore because he's gotten weak over the years. So we'll crank it again, and it'll just keep cranking. It's not ever going to hit. So it's just dropping too low. All right, so for example, here's the stock bike, and it's got a bigger battery and a newer battery. And so when I crank this one over, although it's the same temperature out here, this one ought to just crank right over. So that one fires right up. And so there's no problems out of that as long as the battery's good. But as the battery starts getting weaker, or in the case of the bobber, I got a smaller battery, it just can't push the juice, then what it's doing is not getting enough voltage to the TCI, so the TCI is just putting current to the spark plug, and it's sparking at the wrong time if it sparks at all, or it's just grounding out and just sending voltage down to the spark plug. So what we got to do is get it stable so that it'll spark at the right time, and it'll be a strong enough spark that it'll ignite the fuel. So let's get set up here on the floor, and we're going to go through what it's going to take to put a voltage stabilizer onto the power wires to the TCI. All right, so we're down here on the floor, and what I got is a harness off a parts bike, so I can just kind of go through and see what this thing do. So here's the TCI, sits up underneath the gas tank, and here's where it wires into the harness. So I unwrap that so we can see the wires. So these are your coils, and then this is the hot going to the TCI, and the black one is the ground. So the two in the middle right there are the ones we want to deal with. So these are the power wires going to the TCI. And so what we have here is a voltage stabilizer. It's just a DC to DC converter. And so what it does is it takes a 8 volt to 40 volt, anywhere in that voltage range for an input, and it outputs a steady 12 volt. And so this one's got a max of about 6 amps, so that should be plenty to drive the TCI. So what we're going to do is take this and wire that into the harness. I'm not going to wire on the TCI side. I'm going to wire into the harness. So basically I'm going to cut over on the harness for the bike. I'm going to cut this wire, the red wire, and on the connector side, that's the TCI side. So on the connector side of the wire, I'm going to put the yellow, because that's the output to the stabilizer. And on the harness side, I'm going to put the red, and so that's going to drive power into the stabilizer and then come back out. And then we'll do the same for the black. We'll take the black on the yellow side and we'll hook it into the black on the connector, and then we'll take the black coming in and we'll hook it right there. So we'll loop these in. What I'm going to do is extend these so I can put them into the little saddle bag on the side of the bobber. So I'll extend these out and then we'll connect them up in on the bobber. All right, so we got our little stabilizer sitting down in our saddle bag right here. And so what I'm going to do, I've extended all the wires, kept the colors the same. The two black ones, you can't really tell which one's which when you extend them, so put a little T on there. That's for the TCI side. So it is the output, so it's going to connect to the TCI side. The other one's going to connect to the harness. So I'm going to drop him down in there. And I'll put some padding around him so he doesn't jiggle. We can hook him in. So now we just got to get these wires fed up here to where we can pick up. There we go. Now we're up top anyway. So let's get around here to the side. All right, so right here is the connector that we were looking at down on the ground. So this is the TCI side and this is the harness side. So let's just separate them and get them loose. They won't come off very easy. Come on. You know you want to come off there. You're just cold like me. All right. So over here on this side is where I want to focus. So I'm going to pull this tape back. Okay, so same situation as on the floor. We got the coil, we got the black with the white, and then you got the red and the black. So what I want to do is tie into that red and that black right there and leave me enough room I can get some crimps on them and we'll run them out. So it's a pretty short little wire right there, but I think we can get it. So since mine's in the saddlebag, I can't see it, but I got another one. And so if you want to check to be sure, you can see the red one is the input to the stabilizer. So that's going to go to the harness. The yellow one is the output. It's going to go to the TCI. And one more to go. So the yellow one goes to the TCI. So it's going to connect to the last regulator. All right, so we got our little stabilizer in the bag now, sitting down there by the battery. So now let's get everything set up and see if it'll fire up any better with this weak battery. So we'll crank it up here and see what she do. There we go. A little bit of a rough start because it was flooded from not firing a minute ago, but it did fire up. It kicked right over, so I think that may actually be a big benefit here. We shall see. We'll try it one more time to just see. But you can see the battery still drops down. now it starts up just fine. It was a little flooded from me cranking on it earlier with it not sparking. So, well, there we go. It does look like it makes a difference. So with the mechanical side done on the starter not kicking out with the gear grinding and all that from the other videos, and now we got a stabilizer on there, then we should be in pretty good shape, even running a little battery like this that doesn't have as much push and makes the voltage drop down. So we'll do one more time just for giggles. You can see on that last one, it dropped all the way down to 8 volts and it's still fired up. So there we go. All righty. Well, thanks for watching.